Hi everyone, Tracy here from Healing Minds, counsellor, sexologist and clinical supervisor. Today I wanted to do a video on Stockholm Syndrome, particularly in regards to relationships, but I'll talk a little bit about Stockholm Syndrome first. There's a website where I've found some nice little images that also have text on it. Well, it's actually text instead of me just saying it to you. So it is from Choosing Therapy, and I just like the way they're presented. So I'm going to share the screen. Let's find the right one. Okay. So what is Stockholm Syndrome? So Stockholm Syndrome is an informal term describing the bond between a victim and a perpetrator, often in a hostage situation. I've seen many videos, documentaries based on this as well. There's a lot of information out there. You can always do your own research. Individuals who develop Stockholm Syndrome have positive feelings towards the person abusing them or holding them hostage. Some may go to great lengths to protect the abuser or deny the mistreatment. So that is a little bit about what it is. I'm going to add to that with a little bit more information. Let me check. Particularly around the history of the name of it. This is fascinating. I've got a document here I'm going to read off of. The name derives from an incident in 1973. After a bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden, a woman became so bonded to her captor that she ended her marriage engagement and was loyal to the captor while he was in prison. That's pretty powerful. Stockholm Syndrome was initially used to describe relationships when hostages become emotionally attached to their captor as a coping mechanism to get through life-threatening situations. The definition has since expanded to include the relationships between abused people and those who abuse them. So if we come back to intimate relationships or familial relationships, it's not just when you're in a hostage at a bank robbery or any other traumatic external event like that. It can happen within your own home and within your own relationship and family. This is powerful. It's a form of trauma bonding. So we're going to also talk briefly about that. I've got some more of those screens to share. I just want to get, all right. So what are the signs of Stockholm Syndrome? And I'm saying that slowly because I don't want to stuff it up. That one there. So the signs of Stockholm Syndrome, again from Choosing Therapy. Typically, individuals show empathy toward the abuser. Now, also remember, we are now getting down to intimate relationships. Defending the abuser's actions or behavior, or may blame themselves for the abuse. So then the victim blames themselves for the abuse. And I hear this a lot in the couples work that I do, or when victim survivors come in who I support along their journey of recovery. Some may feel grateful to the perpetrator for allowing them to live. When authorities take action against the abuser, victims may refuse to cooperate or actively try to reduce the abuser or rescue the abuser. It does this flip almost. That's how I sort of look at it on the surface. So there's some of the signs. Okay, so the trauma bonding. The abuser uses rewards and punishments within the cycles of abuse to maintain an emotional attachment to the abused person. It is more likely to occur when there is a perceived threat to a person's physical and psychological survival. It's abusive because it's manipulative. All the different things that you've possibly heard of, you may not have, but possibly heard of about abuse and how this looks and happens in a relationship where there's manipulation, coercive control, gaslighting, all of those words that are used quite common nowadays are also used to manipulate someone, resulting in a trauma bond. To cope with this internal conflict, people with Stockholm Syndrome and other forms of trauma create their own version of their experience that can be more sympathetic to the person holding them captive or abusing them. So we trick our minds. It's a survival technique. Cognitive dissonance happens when a person behaves in a way that goes against their core beliefs. For example, they know smoking is bad for their health, but do it anyway. This leads to conflicted thoughts and feelings that can motivate changes in beliefs or behaviors. All right, I'm going to share another page or another signs. Oops, keeps moving around. Signs of Stockholm Syndrome. So there's a lot involved in this in a very short space of time. I've covered a lot of different language, a lot of different words, a lot of different types of behavior. So if you want to learn more about it, there's a lot of stuff out there that you can read up, movies, documentaries, webinars, books, a whole bunch of stuff. Feel free to do so, obviously. It's your choice. So signs of Stockholm Syndrome. Typically, individuals show empathy. Some may be grateful to the perpetrator for allowing them to live. Oh, I've already read that one out, haven't I? I'm going to read it off here. They show empathy and concern toward the abuser. They feel sorry for or defend the abuser. They feel loyalty toward the abuser. They show fear when around anyone outside of the relationship, and they don't believe they can leave the relationship. So that's more signs that we're adding to the list. All right, another screen. I'll get it right this time. Yes, the effects of Stockholm Syndrome. So how does it affect? Now, I've already mentioned some things. Effects of Stockholm Syndrome can be temporary or long-lasting, depending on the person, situation, type of trauma, and duration of abuse. Unaddressed Stockholm Syndrome can eventually contribute to a loss of self, PTSD symptoms, and an ongoing cycle of abuse. And I'm thinking by the time it gets to be called Stockholm Syndrome, or by the time someone either realizes it, either the victim themselves or someone else around them or a professional, the loss of self has probably already happened. That's what happens in abusive relationships, the loss of self, the loss of personal identity. It's through manipulation by the abuser. That's what it's designed to do. That's what abuse is designed to do. So if someone takes that identity away from their partner, the victim, then the abuser can control them. It's pretty serious stuff. So by the time we've gotten to this point, they've already been in an abusive relationship. And it's probably not the first abusive relationship. And I'm going to show you one more. Oops. I really like how these are succinct and summarize. And this one is about treatment. Stockholm Syndrome treatment. Many people need counseling or psychological treatment to process conflicting thoughts and feelings related to traumatic events. So if the person is feeling really confused, on one hand, they see their abuser in a positive light and they want to rescue them and all that sort of stuff. But on the other hand, someone's telling them that's abusive and it's not okay. that can be really conflicting and confusing for the victim. Because this syndrome often results from trauma, choosing a therapist, counselor, or psychologist experiencing trauma-informed therapy is best. So this is some heavy stuff, and it's because of abuse. So the underlying issue is about learning, first of all, and I think psychoeducation is really important in counseling. You don't just, I don't believe counseling should just be about management tools or breath work, even though those things are extremely important. But I also think, especially with the practice that I do, I like to teach client things with their permission, psychoeducation around all of this stuff, just like I'm doing today. So then they can have make an informed decision about what they want to do moving forward based on the correct knowledge. And when you do get information about stuff like this, make sure it's from a trained and qualified person, not just some influencer online, even though they may have experience, a lived experience, or have seen someone themselves. This is heavy stuff, and we're talking PTSD and complex PTSD and all the things that go along with it. So make sure that you get the appropriate support that you need to work through the abuse, the trauma, and any feelings of the Stockholm Syndrome that you're experiencing. All right, that's all I've got. Take care. Stay safe. I'll see you next time. Bye.